Yo, what up guys? Welcome back to Sneaker Stories. As always, I'm your host Chris Jack. Today shooting a little video just on how to sell on StockX. It's a question that's popped up in my DMs a hell of a lot of recent with people here in South Africa at least, wanting to find out more about how to use the platform and all of that kind of stuff. So I've used StockX quite a bit over the past couple of years since it originally started. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, StockX, as they call themselves, the stock market of things, is basically just a global marketplace where you can buy and sell whether shoes, accessories, handbags, watches, clothing, pretty much anything. Now the website or the business itself has completely revolutionized the way that we buy and sell kicks, amongst other things of course, and it's something that I've really used to my advantage. I mean, I have pretty much bought tons and tons of different shoes off StockX, and I've created a little system for myself to be able to get these shoes from the United States to South Africa, which obviously you can just ship directly, but it is an expensive exercise because you've got to take into consideration customs and import duties and all of that kind of stuff into how much these purchases are going to cost you landed here in South Africa. Now, I know that a lot of you guys are watching from all different countries from around the world, and each country has a different set of regulations when it comes to taxes and shipping and things like that. So I'm just going to focus this video around how it is selling from South Africa. However, there will be a lot of different lessons and maybe some things that you can pick up here that will apply in your own country that perhaps you didn't know about. So please feel free to stick around and watch this video because you never know what might actually apply to you as well, depending on where you live. I'm going to be covering three main topics in this. First is how to sell on StockX. The second is going to be things you need to know about selling on StockX. And last but not least, how to get your money out of StockX. All right, so on to the first section, how to actually sell on StockX. Now, there's a couple of ways that you will have to do this. Before you can do anything on StockX, you'll obviously need a StockX account. You'll also need a PayPal account because StockX does not pay out into credit cards, at least if you're based in South Africa. You do need a PayPal account, which is obviously free to create at paypal.com. And then obviously that signed up account on StockX itself. Now you'll notice if you search for a shoe on the website or a particular pair you want to sell, let's just say it was a Yeezy 350 Glow, for example. You'll search for that item, you'll see there's a highest bid and a lowest ask. Now the highest bid is the highest amount of money someone is willing to pay for that shoe right now in a live marketplace. The lowest ask is the lowest amount of money that somebody is willing to sell that shoe for right now in the live marketplace. So when you have your highest bid and your lowest ask over here and they match, it automatically takes the transaction through on StockX. So now you've got a buyer over here who could be anywhere in the world and a seller over here who could be anywhere in the world, and they basically have to link up, and that's with the middleman in the middle being StockX. Now StockX has authentication centers in Detroit and in the UK. It is a little bit complicated at the moment because they are trying to match buyers in Europe with the UK depot and the buyers and sellers in the US with those kind of transactions. So that's a little bit too complicated for now. That's something they're still working on, and it's kind of bugged the site out a bit, but just ignore that. If you do pick up some discrepancies between lowest asks and stuff like that, as far as I understand, they're ironing that shit out. But essentially, you're now the seller. You've basically wanted to sell your pair of Yeezy Glows. You put them up for $300 or whatever. Someone's matched that with the highest bid. The transaction's gone through. StockX has sent you a mail saying, congratulations, your item has sold. What do you do? So in that email, they'll send you two different documents. So one's a shipping waybill and the other's a shipping invoice, essentially. You're going to need to print both of those documents out. And I'm just going to take you through the steps quickly of what you actually have to do in those 2 business days in order to make sure that your item is shipped in time to avoid any penalties from StockX down the line. Now, the first thing you're really going to have to make sure of is, are your shoes in fact DS? This is something you should do before even listing them on the site because it will come with penalties if they are not, and you've shipped them now to their depot in the States and they've basically not authenticated them. So you've got to really make sure all the original paper, all the tags and everything are still there with the shoes so that they can basically authenticate them and the deal can go through. But in these 2 days, you're going to have to contact UPS, at least that's what it's like for us in South Africa, and arrange a collection. So on this waybill over here, this is just like a fake one that I've just made now. You'll see you've got the tracking address over there. That you'll basically just have to tell them on the phone because they'll ask you if you have an account, and you just say, no, I've got the waybill though, and somehow they just come and collect it anyway. pro tip. Or you can obviously drop this off at a UPS location wherever you are based. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, when they send you that email, they do send you 2 documents attached that you have to download and print out. The first one is that order form and shipping waybill. You've got to take this piece of paper out, it looks like that, and slide it into the top of your box. And then you basically have to get a shipping box. This is very, very important. Do not skip this, otherwise you'll completely ruin the box. Do not tape the original box or anything like that. In fact, I've actually seen this screwed up so many times, so I'm just going to show you how to do it quickly. Alright, so for this example, I'm just using this Puma box over here. Now you've put the order sheet inside the box already. You've got the waybill and the shipping invoice to the side already. You've got a shipping box. Now this needs to be a box that's actually going to fit the shoes in with no more than like 2 inches around it. Once you've closed this up, there's a specific way that you're going to need to tape this to make sure it is absolutely perfect. And they basically ask you to do the H method, which is essentially just a single piece of tape right down the box. And then you need to make sure you do the sides as well. So essentially, you're just securing the shit out of the box. So once that's done, you've got your box, and now you've still got your waybill and your shipping invoice. Now, they do say attach the waybill with tape to the top of the box. However, I have found that you can just basically leave that out with the shipping invoice and just give that to the UPS guy, who will then put it in a plastic sleeve and seal that to the box when he collects it. Now, if that came across as a little confusing, or maybe you lost track there, all of these steps are available in clear point form on the StockX FAQ website over here. You just need to search on their FAQs how to ship an item properly to StockX, and all the steps are there. Alright, so now your shoes are with the UPS courier. They have now left, and that takes us to our second section of things you should know when selling on StockX. Alright, so now you've packaged your shoes up, you've done everything you need to do. They're with UPS now. They're going to take around a week, or maybe even a week and a half to 2 weeks sometime. I found it's very, very difficult to predict how long it's going to take for UPS to ship from South Africa to Detroit, is where they're going to be authenticated now. Obviously, you might be wondering at this point, where's my money? Like, I've left with my shoes, but I don't have any money. And that's because StockX will only pay you out the money into your PayPal account once they've authenticated the shoes, because they don't want to run any risk of you sending them a pair of fake shoes. It's a completely normal process and it makes sense. If they do not authenticate your item, they just ship it directly back to you. And I think that there might be a little bit of a penalty. They'll take like the processing fee or something like that. So you really want to make sure you're not shipping them anything that could possibly not be authenticated. They really are quite strict in this process. It's really just protecting the community of buyers and sellers around the world. Alright, so the next step that's going to happen now is they're going to get your shoes, they're going to authenticate them, and then they're going to send you a mail immediately saying your items have been authenticated. Now, before I get into when you actually get your money, I just want to talk about a couple of other things which I've picked up from time to time. If you do sell an item over $800, you are going to be expected to pay luxury import duties to StockX. Now, this is a massive, massive percentage. If I just throw up an example over there, you can see just how much the luxury import duties are going to be. Dang. Now, this is something I haven't quite ever worked out, because I can't really understand how me, as a seller in South Africa, who's shipping or exporting a product to the United States, should be expected to pay any form of import duties on that. In an ideal world, and if the roles were reversed, I would be expected to pay the import duties if I was importing something from StockX, which I do anyway. So this is something that's a real big gray area. I haven't been able to figure out what that is, and I can't find it in any particular tax codes or anything like that in the United States, although that's just not my forte. I'll say that right now up front. But yeah, it's really off-putting if you do want to sell some high value shoes there, to be able to have like that amount of money just disappear into who knows pockets. In this particular process already, when StockX is charging a processing or an administrative fee on top of everything else, the shipping costs and all of that kind of stuff. Speaking of the shipping cost, as you guys probably saw from that, selling from South Africa, it is a flat fee of $30. So that will just be deducted off that total payout price that StockX will pay out into your PayPal account should your items be authenticated. Now, something else that I've picked up and that you should all know, when selling things on StockX, or anywhere for that matter that is outside of South Africa, so theoretically exporting, the South African Revenue Service or Customs will only allow you to sell 3 items per year without having to have an exporter's code. Now, I don't actually have an exporter's code myself. Some friends of mine definitely do have them. So once I reach my 3-item threshold, I just basically get my friends to sell my stuff for me if they are willing to do that, or you could go through the process of applying for an exporter's code yourself. For someone like me, I don't really keep track of how many things I'm selling. I don't really sell much, to be honest, at all. So you'll only really find this out when UPS basically come back to you and say, hey, do you have an exporter's code? You've shipped more than 3 items. So it's just something to be aware of. If you are planning to move a lot of shoes, I would definitely suggest moving the most expensive ones that are just under $800, so it's $799, so you can avoid the luxury import duties and get the biggest payout that you can for that particular item. All right, so just to end this particular segment off, your shoes have now been authenticated. They are on the way to the buyer of the shoe, and StockX has now paid you the total payout price that they promised you into your PayPal account. Now what? Okay, so in this particular segment, a lot of people don't actually know this, but I did bring this up at the beginning of the video. You can't actually get paid straight into your credit card or into your debit card or bank or anything like that if you are based in South Africa. You do need this PayPal account. However, if you don't plan on using the dollars for anything from the PayPal account with StockX or any other website that accepts PayPal for that matter, and you do want to get your money out of that PayPal account and into your South African bank account, you're going to need an FNB account. Now, unfortunately, in South Africa, this is the only bank that has an agreement with PayPal and a setup to be able to withdraw funds from PayPal into your normal bank account, essentially turning them into rands, but that does come with some catches as well. All right, so I just want to quickly shout out Grant from Cape Kicks, who has this FNB account set up with his particular PayPal, and he's been able to provide us with screenshots of what it would actually cost you to get that money out, because essentially FNB has to make money off this transaction as well, so they do charge 1.5% of whatever you're withdrawing out of your PayPal and turning into rands in your South African FNB account. They obviously give you the bank rates of exchange at the time, which is always not as good as what you'd find on Google, but to help really explain that, we've just done a calculation at 1,000 Rand, at 5,000 Rand, and at 10,000 Rand right here, just to give you the dollar amounts of when we did these calculations. And now below those three over there, I'm just going to list what the total payout or how much money you'll actually be left with after FNB has done their transaction of getting the money out and taking their commission, etc. on that sale. So as you can see, like obviously the more you spend, the more you're going to lose at the end of the day, but it's not really too much money. And as far as I understand, this process takes between 3 and 5 working days. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it will take some time to get the money out, so you have to have patience with that particular process, and obviously just get that account set up with FNB if you plan on taking the money out. So the last and final thing with that, if you are going to be taking the money out, you are going to need to probably declare that as income to the tax man, as essentially this is income. You're selling shoes for a profit most of the time, at least on StockX. So keep track of everything that you've sold there and make sure you do declare it so you don't run into any issues with SARS down the line. But that is pretty much it for this video. I hope I haven't left anything out. If I have, please ask me in the comments if you've got any further questions on this matter, and I'll do my best to answer you there as soon as possible. But I think overall speaking, the most questions I got were whether it's possible to actually even sell from South Africa, and that is yes. I think you've got the process now of what to do. Obviously, all of this information is available on StockX's website as well. You just got to look through it in the FAQ section. But do feel free to drop comments below with any other questions that you do have. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe right there if you haven't already. It really helps this page grow and basically see the video through the YouTube algorithm. But thanks again, guys. Catch you on the next one.